Hello and welcome back to my humble show. So, Charlie Kirk was assassinated with the bullet of a coward, and those who dance on his grave kick dirt only on their own headstone. It has been 2 days now since the atrocious assassination of Charlie Kirk. And while I didn't know him personally, I feel like I did, especially after binging on his college campus debate clips. I'd encourage you to do the same if you have the opportunity. You'll learn a lot in one way or another. But yes, I have been meaning to talk about this. In fact, I meant to talk about Charlie Kirk before he was even shot. I had my next show planned. I was going to be talking about the dispute CNN had with him. They smeared him for his coverage of the Ukrainian refugee who was slaughtered on a train in North Carolina a couple of weeks ago. They waited to cover it until they felt they could criticize his coverage of it. And they did just that the next day. When I was going to be talking about that, I had a thread lined up and everything. I first found out that he had been... So everything changed. I think I'm still going to cover that because it's worth covering. And he would have still been covering it if he were still alive. But in the meantime, I'm just going to share with you something I posted on my personal Facebook account. I'm doing this because I haven't posted anything on my personal Facebook account in quite some time. I'll explain within what I've posted why, but it's personal to me, and so I'm going to share it with you. When I say personal, I don't mean that it's about me. It's just my personal observation. And you can let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, there's room for disagreement, and therefore there's room for debate. More debate equals less hate. And wouldn't that be just great? So let me start by showing you this. This video I added at the bottom of my post. Along with this photo, family photo, Charlie Kirk, his wife Erica, their 2 daughters. One big happy family. So here's a clip, a debate clip. Not even a debate clip, it's just from a college campus somewhere, I believe. But it's something which has been going around fittingly. See for yourself.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do this.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assault, the left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
Okay, so what's your goal in all this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we put it on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
When people stop talking, violence. And that's what happened. A lot of things he has talked about sadly came full circle in the worst possible way, all in one moment. Because he told a lot of truth. I'm not saying everything. I'm saying a lot. I leave that up to you to decide. Because I'm not pretending to agree with him on everything. But that's besides the fact. There's always room for disagreement. Charlie Kirk was assassinated with the bullet of a coward. And those who dance on his grave kick dirt only on their own headstone. There's this trend in society of people having the following mentality. If I disagree with what you're saying, then your words automatically either incite or equate to violence. But if I agree with what you're saying, and you commit a literal act of violence against the person I disagree with, then it's either barely even violence, or it's basically justified. Of course, the people with this mentality ironically have the ability to observe the truth about everyone except themselves, in which case the speck/plank is likely in their own eye rather than in what they see. Now, the above can apply to either end of the political spectrum, or to any aspiring extremist in between, but allow me to make an observation specifically about an increasingly large portion of the political left. When they see a man like Donald Trump, a celebrity-turned-politician, a 3-time husband with a history of womanizing and cheating, who has racked up 2 impeachments, 4 indictments, several company bankruptcies, and been plagued with accusations and allegations for years, they think, this man is evil. When they see a man like Charlie Kirk, who has 0 scandals, no criminal history, 2 innocent children with 1 God-fearing wife, tirelessly advocates for family and faithfulness, has civil debates with loose cannons who literally wish death upon him, and peacefully fights for what he believes in with an amount of courage which no rage-posting opponent possesses, they think, this man is evil. Thus, that's not intended as an observation about either of the 2 men. It's an observation about those who are so blinded by their own politically driven bias and rage that they themselves can no longer even distinguish the difference between evil and an honest alternative perspective. This is why so many people who are in pursuit of diversity lack the capacity for diversity of thought. They look to the right and perceive only implicit bias and explicit bigotry. Then they look to the left and perceive only objective fact. Ironically, despite so much of those facts being based entirely upon eyes of total subjectivity. Identity is found in self rather than in Christ. Truth is stripped from Scripture in the name of love. Love is lost in the fight for justice. Judgment is determined based upon predisposition, and debate is hindered in an incoherent attempt to prevent hatred. Now, Charlie Kirk is dead. At the hands of a cowardly assassin who believed that violently preventing peaceful debate was somehow more productive than simply debating. Of course, the coward had little to no facts and logic to bring to the table. Only the destructive desperation of a hateful predisposition. Therefore, whether you agreed with his every last position or not, a God-fearing man who was in the midst of challenging the thoughts of young people was instead shot to death in cold blood in front of those young people. There's no love in that. Certainly not for the widow and her fatherless children, but neither for any supposedly righteous cause, near or far. Murdering a healthcare CEO in the streets accomplished nothing, and murdering a multi-generational inspiration will accomplish only the exact opposite of whatever the heck Charlie Kirk's haters hope it will accomplish. Therefore, to any hater whose capacity to read my writing, listen to my reading, is greater than their tolerance for his debating, mourn. And not just because even in death, Charlie Kirk has defeated your logic, but because you yourself are contributing to a culture of darkness, destruction, and ultimately death. Many a man and woman who dismiss the death or even dance on the grave of someone who died in a state of happiness will continue to live their own life in their own state of misery. They may very well continue to despise the one who had his life together, even as they struggle to keep their own together. Because those who are their own worst enemies simply can't fathom what it means to truly love their neighbor. For them, it's all subjective, and therefore selective, and therefore projected onto those who reject it. I realize that although I've refrained from forcing particular political views into this piece, there may be someone who detests how I even dare to defend the name of a dead man. Well, so be it. Know that his courage inspires me more than your outrage discourages me. Nevertheless, I do hope you find peace, as well as purpose, as well as the wisdom to comprehend why such concepts are even attainable. I digress, with a final observation. I've seen videos of people attempting to rationalize why Charlie Kirk's violent demise isn't so sad after all, or why they have some form of mixed feelings. They start by pretending they have some innocent insight to offer about how this or that is happening in the world, and about how they don't agree with his opinion on it, and they quickly spiral into personal animosity, to the point where it's obvious how their supposed insight is really just a cover for their animosity. And it becomes clear that they're investing in the very energy they claim to detest as they determine whether or not death is deserved on a scale of disagreement. Such people have no rule of thumb. They're only pointing blindly into the darkness, as though that's how light spreads. I guarantee you that light spread faster on a campus with Charlie Kirk debating on it than it spreads on social media with you complaining about it. Try truly listening, instead of merely jumping to conclusions and judging. Lord knows you don't like to be judged. On a personal note, I haven't really posted anything personal on this account in quite some time, because I decided not to give the people I knew my opinion if they weren't asking for it. Believe me, I share it elsewhere when time allows, but it's too easy to taint personal relationships with personal opinions. Likewise, I've largely refrained from even scrolling on here for a while due to my desire not to increase the amount of disagreements I'll inevitably have with people and therefore feel obligated to compartmentalize them. The problem is, without discussion, all that's left is distance. And before I know it, I've disassociated myself from everyone I know. That, my friend, is a me problem. But what I also know is that Charlie Kirk was someone who pursued the exact opposite. Maintained relationships with as many humans as humanly possible, gave people a voice, and bridged gap after gap. What have you done? But also, what have I done? Certainly not enough. And if we have done something in the form of free speech and debate, heaven forbid we be murdered in front of our friends, and especially in front of our families, for it. Shot by a sniper for speaking our mind as others rant about authoritarianism from the comfort of their homes. Don't just keep refreshing your feed. Feed it something refreshing. I would be even more emotional right now because I have been sick to my stomach since it happened. But been there, done that. And I probably will some more. But I would encourage everyone to do some soul searching as well as some basic thought exercising. I do plan to record an actual podcast at some point in the near future covering what I intended to cover before he was murdered, but also more of the information about his murder, his assassination. I believe the suspect is still at large, but they are looking. Some video footage, some security footage has been released. Additional rewards are being offered by certain conservatives who want the assassin to be brought to justice and potentially the death penalty in Utah. Such a loss, if you ask me, for this man's family, for his friends, for the world. Ignore any personal names you might have seen pop up on the side in the form of notifications. Like I said, this is on my personal Facebook account. I didn't factor in that people might be responding to it or reacting to it as I was recording. But that's all I have to say for now. If I seem exhausted, that's because it's nearly 6 a.m. and I haven't yet been to sleep, but that's what happens when you have a newborn and a lot of other things going on. Yes, I'm the same age as Charlie Kirk. 31 years of age. He has accomplished so much. More than me. I should take that as not just inspiration, but as a challenge. Not just to share more, but to care more. So again, I'd be happy to hear from you. Hopefully this isn't coming across as debate material. If you have something positive to say in the comments below, let the world know. If not, that's okay too. He would understand. As do I. But yes, keep in touch, keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Hopefully. Because you just never know. Peace.